Hello everybody, welcome to another reaction video. This is going to be a reaction on Luke Stevens, if you want to call it Skull and Bones review. Now I have not played the game and I'm not planning to buy that game either. No, not gonna happen. After everything I've seen over the years and I have watched people play it and I gotta say it's just... It's fascinating. That's all I have to say. Like, it is fascinating. How they took a 10-year-old game, I think it was AC4 came out 2014, somewhere around there, like 10 years ago, and you stripped it down half or even almost 80% of the fun of it. Like, and they're calling it a quadruple video. Like, I have lost faith in big studios right now. From everything from BioWare, CD Projekt. Yes, they did some terrible choices. Absolutely. I feel like if they gave Cyberpunk in maybe a year or two more, probably would be better. But yeah, what more? Yeah, EA pretty much kill off the industry right about now. Blizzard, what more? Activision as well. Bethesda. Like, I have lost faith. Like, it's gonna take some serious shit to make me come back to these big studios, especially for Bethesda. They though I have done my review on Starfield, I think it was like an okay video game, like a standardized. Like, if it came out 10 years ago, it would be a masterpiece. But now it's complete different story. I do think it's an okay video game. It was fine, but the standards for video games, especially for RPG open world games, have gone on the next level. Baldur's Gate 3 pretty much all on its own rose the level to another level, along with Hogwarts Legacy and that sort of thing. And I wanted to see what Luke Stevens has to say about it. If you don't like him and that sort of thing, that's on you. I do feel like at least he's have better, a somewhat of neutral perspective on a lot of video games. He had a very, what do you call it now? He did have a lot of points of view and either more neutral and criticism when it came to Hogwarts Legacy, for example, and I think he said as well that he was surprised about the game, even though he kind of knew that this was going to be a successful game. Just like me, I was already on it from the moment I saw the announcement. But yeah, but Skull and Bones, I mean, this shit show we have seen over the years is baffling. All the money, all that time could have gone to something better, like Assassin's Creed Black Flag 2, something better. But instead they just decided to go down this path of greed and laziness. So yeah. And $70. $70? Are you fucking high or something? Who came up with that price? I wanna know. Like, $70. You realize how much food I can buy with that amount of money right now? Well, not that much, to be honest. Oh my god. How much it payable? I did play a little bit of it. It's not my kind of video games that I'm looking for, but it was okay. I think it was like 40, 45 or something. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, let's see what Luke Stevens has to say about this.
The day has finally come. Skull and Bones has released after over a decade of work and now we
I want to also say, just because a video game has been worked on for a decade doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually a positive thing that a video game has been worked on for a very long time. Like Hogwarts Legacy was, how many years was it? 7 years or something they worked on that game, and it was almost perfect, absolutely. And there's a lot of other games like GTA and Red Dead Redemption 2. So there's a lot of choices, or I don't know, I don't know that word for English. Options, maybe it's more accurate to say. Of video games that have been worked on for years and come out really, really amazingly. And sometimes it's also kind of like a curse. You like Anthem, for example. How many years was it they had worked on that game, and they just surprisingly made that game in like a couple of months, even though they said they have worked for it in years. But you know, evidence says the difference.
we can talk about it. It feels weird to be here, but you know what? I'm not complaining. Now, over the last year and a half or so, I have played a lot of Skull and Bones through open betas, private betas, and early access events, such as one I attended relatively recently, giving me a chance to play Skull and Bones' endgame and try the final Season 1 boss early. So amazingly enough, I've actually seen a lot more of this game than you would think, and so I have a lot to say. But just to be sure, I decided to go and play the launch version of the game, at least as much of it as I could stomach and muster. And so this video is basically the culmination of those dozens and dozens of hours of gameplay and misery that I have put myself through over the last however many months in preparation for this launch. So let's just get into it. Is Skull and Bones actually as bad as we all were afeared it would be, or does it actually manage to do something kind of surprising? I think the answer may surprise you. I'm just kidding. It's terrible. It's really bad. It's bad. The first thing that I think is really important to establish with Skull and Bones is exactly what kind of game it's trying to be. Back when it was originally pitched to players, the vision was basically that it was going to be Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but without the Assassin's Creed branding. And this isn't necessarily a bad idea. A lot of people loved Black Flag and were frustrated every time they were pulled out of the piratey goodness to deal with some sort of Abstergo plot line. So the idea that we would have a pirate game that just focused on the cool pirate stuff was alluring. But as you might have heard, the game restarted development multiple times.
Many of you probably are too young for this, but there was a game published by Bethesda which was called Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it wasn't based on the movies. I don't remember when it came out. 2007 maybe. Was it Amberline Entertainment who made? I don't remember. But it was an open world pirate game, and it was actually pretty detailed and pretty deep, and it had a lot of content for a game back then. I mean, it was basically an open world pirate game. Sure, you couldn't create your own character, but honestly, it didn't matter because the game was actually fun. So ever since that, a pirate game, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, it's the only other pirate game I can think about. The video games based on the Pirates of the Caribbean movies was mostly like movie video games, not like their own standardized video games like the Bethesda published over Paris game. But Sea of Thieves, but that was not a well, you can play single player, but I'm sure there are some out there, but it feels more like there should be more strategy pirate game than actual open world games. Oh.
There were all sorts of issues with infighting, different directors that would come in from France to take over the project in Singapore, and they just could never really figure out what this game was supposed to be. So in one iteration, it would basically be Black Flag, but without Assassin's Creed elements. Another version would be more like a character-based shooter, but with ships instead. Other times it was like Rocket League, but with pirate ships. Just no part of this really made sense, and they struggled to figure out exactly what this game was going to be, and that led to an issue we've seen over the last decade as they've worked on this game, which is just that players don't even really know what this game is supposed to be or trying to be. And now that we actually have it, we can see the vision, though I don't think the version of the game that we ended up getting was the version that excited the most people. To demonstrate what I'm talking about, I'm just going to boot into the game, and because this is not Helldivers, the servers are far from at capacity, so we should be able to get in real quick. So what you're seeing...
Oh yeah, Helldivers. I did play a little bit of it. I gotta say, already, it's awesome. Like... Oh, I'm so angry. Like... greed is the source of this shit we are getting these days. Oh.
Here is a reset profile I have with just a really basic level 2 ship at the very, very start of the game. Just very, very bare bones. But what you notice immediately is just how confusing the pitch for Skull and Bones is, because what you effectively do is sail around this somewhat anemic map. Sometimes you might be hunting for, say, a great white shark, or other times you'll just be going around looking for crafting materials to build different weapons or to improve your ship with improved like armor.
I will say the game, yeah, it does look pretty nice. Maybe for 5 years ago, maybe 7. Now... Yeah, graphic isn't everything, but, you know, I expected something better. To me, it just looks like they have upgraded the texture for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I mean, even Sea of Thieves looks better, even though it's a little bit more cartoony, but still looks better, especially the water. The water looks absolutely amazing in that game. This one...
plating or whatever else it may be. And somewhat similarly to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, you can't just get out of your ship anywhere and start exploring the sides of islands or various things. It's only at very specific spots that you can dock. So the extent that...
That's so dumb. That's so dumb. Like, one of the biggest fun thing in the Black Flag was you saw an island, you were like, no matter its size, you're like, okay, stop. We are going there. Like, Captain, why should we go there? It's just a small island. It's the SpongeBob Island. I need to go there. There are treasures there. I know it. I can smell them. You know, something like that. It made it fun. And then you parked your ship. You swing out and swim through the island, and you find stuff. It was fun. Oh.
Exploration that you'll be enjoying is pretty much limited to major points of interest, like that big place we were at just a minute ago over there, or at specific forts that are for like larger missions and things. And as you can see, I am far too out here for a level 2 ship, so we all are dead. I wanted to see and test if the game would let me just sail indefinitely to the edge of the map, and you actually can. I'm happy to report you can basically just get one shot though, so that's something to keep in mind. But you see, even on land, you can look around. There are some like characters you can talk to, like this rogue. If you talk to them, then they have different things that they're vending to you. It's all like kind of confusing in terms of UI. It's just like you have to read every single item because some of these will look similar. They're just different tiers, not even represented very clearly visually. Like these are different tiers. I get this one's bigger than this one. It's enhanced. But then level 2 is just like a slightly taller version of the same basket, so I guess that makes it better. I don't know. I just don't like the UI layout.
Shit.
I find it oddly lame and bland. I don't know how else to phrase it. It's just it just looks like a grid of stuff, and that's about
Like,
it.
it's not even sorted as well. Like, you see food, and you see health, and you see, I don't know, harpoons, ammo capacity, maybe. There's no... there's no filtering, or there's no... what do you call it? Sortment. Sorry, English, yet again, English, not my first language. We're calling it sortiment in Swedish. Sortment, something like that. They sort in each theme, like food here, and here you have ammunition, here you have repairs, and you know, that sort of thing. This just feels like, or looks like, or is a bunch of just random things over the place. Price updating. Why would you update your price?
You can sort of explore around these areas, but there's no on-land combat. There's no docked combat or anything.
Even better. What's wrong with the animation? The way they're running? It looks shit.
Even the animation sets
Yeah.
for running around and exploring places are very, very outdated.
What is this?
Like, this movement set that you're seeing as I shift left to right, the feet aren't...
It looks like they are one of those pre-bought sets or something. Bought assets, you know, animation like that. It looks shit. Ugh. Even Black Flag has better one.
aren't planting anywhere near as accurately as they even were back with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Like, I'll have Jacob put up footage of Edward running around in that game, and I feel like he was much more weighted and his foot placement was much more intentional than this. This is way more floaty. It just reaffirms again the idea that Skull and Bones doesn't actually do anything that well. It's just a collection of hodgepodge systems, none of which are the best at what they're trying to do. It's just a bunch of systems that are kind of sucky that make up a generally sucky game. And just like that, we're back at the beach. That is the extent of exploration in Skull and Bones.
That was all? Was that all? A quadruple game. My hecking ass it is.
We're right back where we were.
Hogwarts Legacy is a quadruple at this point.
We hit this button, and just like that, we are back in it. Now, I do want to say that the game is pretty. I mean, when you're sailing and you see the sun coming down, reflecting off the water, you see the god rays, I think the game can look pretty good. I don't think character models are that great. I don't think the animation is that great for actual character movement, but the ships look pretty nice. The water looks good, and I think it's workable. The issues, though, kind of creep up from there. I mean, to break this down as clearly as I can, I just need to explain, I think, each of the three phases of the game, the early game, mid game, and end game, and what you're going to be doing in each of those and why none of it really makes sense. In the early game of Skull and Bones, you're going to be sailing around collecting wood, collecting ore, and other such materials that you need to upgrade either your tools or the weaponry on your ship or the ship itself. This may make sense narratively speaking. You need to improve your ship, so you need to get materials to improve your ship, but you would think when playing a pirate game, you would gain those materials by performing piratey actions, as it were. You know, like, it's a pirate game. Maybe you should get that stuff by being a pirate. So, like, sinking ships or pillaging, dare I say. That sounds like a good idea, right? Well, no, that's not what we're doing. Instead, the designers made it so you sail around the outskirts of islands and chop down wood or mine different materials by performing this basic mini game. I kid you not, like, if you were asking the devs, what is the lamest way a pirate could collect wood? I think this is it. I really do think this is the lamest way you could possibly collect materials.
Granted, yes, to get materials they would have walked onto the land and gather it. But you can make that fun, actually.
In a pirate game. Not doing piratey stuff, but going and chopping down the wood and mining the ore with the lamest mini game you could possibly have. It's amazing to me. Like, how anybody thought that this was how they should start their pirate game is amazing to me. Furthermore, early in the game, you're tasked with completing all of these various collectathons, and each one is assigned individually, and you have to complete them all individually, one at a time before taking on the next. It would make a lot more sense to just open all of them up to you, allowing you to go and complete every single contract all at once, but instead they assign them once at a time, as if they're just trying to slow you down and bloat the game's runtime. And this is where the elements of live service befuddlery, if that's a term, start to really creep in. The reason live service is a bad word and taboo at this point in the gaming industry is because live service games...
When it comes to live service game, honestly, back in the day when it started to come around, why can't it just fucking die sometimes? I'm trying to think about a single live service game that I actually liked. Is Valheim considered a live service game? Because if it is, then it's pretty much the only one that I actually like. Because it's still in early access, I think. I don't really know that. I don't really know exactly. I only know they are going to release a new biome soon, so I'm going to test that one. I love Valheim. I absolutely love it. What else? Well, Pale Lord, probably consider a live service game, but that one is, according to a lot of people, fun, good, that sort of thing. So I can't really speak about it because, as I said, I haven't played it. I have tested it, but I haven't, got into it. So
games are built around keeping you engaged for hundreds, if not thousands of hours. And inevitably, the way that happens is through bloated gameplay mechanics that are designed to eat up more and more of your time. Sometimes this could be with different drop rates on rare or ultra rare materials. Maybe you're playing a looter shooter and you need a weapon with a certain set of stats to be able to take on the final season boss. And so you fight waves upon waves of enemies and do the same encounter 20 times to try and get the best possible drop. Or maybe there's a really unique mount that you want in World of Warcraft, and so you have to perform a set of extremely tedious and repetitive activities to try and unlock that mount. You know what I mean. These are activities specifically designed to slow the player down, even though they could give you that super cool mount or super cool skin or weapon with a singular drop after completing, say, a boss fight. Instead, they make it take 10, 20 hours of gameplay to get there. So on the one hand, it might feel more satisfying because you really worked for it. But on the flip side, you've also burnt tens of hours trying to complete one simple task. And Skull and Bones, unfortunately, applies this principle across the board in everything it does. If you're trying to craft a singular cannon to improve your ship's overall capability in battle, you have to complete various activities to collect the necessary materials, and even then you might need a blueprint or two to be able to accomplish this. You have to then sail all the way back to the blacksmith, make sure that he can actually craft it, and then apply it to your ship. Every single activity in the game is built around padding out gameplay time, and it shows. One of the very first things you do in the game is you're tasked with collecting 8 acacia wood in the very introductory sections of the game in order to craft your first ship. To do this, you sail on a little sloop that you have all the way over about 1.5 kilometers away to cut down this wood with a boring ass minigame, and then sail all the way back to where you started to give that wood to the shipwright so that he can use it to craft the ship itself. You're then given a series of other contracts to complete, which are just glorified fetch quests, and after about an hour of doing that, you'll be able to craft your first ship and get the game.
Sorry, I'm stopping, but I'm just reminded of I have seen people ferociously defending this game in all manners of things, like they like it, they think it's a good game, it's better than Black Flag. Like, either these people are, I'm sorry to tell you like this, if you really like this game, I'm sorry, but your taste in entertainment is questionable as hell.
Rolling. So amazingly enough, the early game is basically just a series of fetch quests that are designed to keep you engaged in small gameplay loops of traveling from point to point for 5 to 10 minutes at a time, completing various deliveries or collecting different things. Not exactly how I would have recommended they start their pirate game, but okay, once you have your pirate ship, you're able to go and actually perform piratey activities, such as engaging in combat or completing various contracts with other players on your squad or team, or against other players and their squads and teams. This is when the mid-game starts, and it's where the game starts to pick up a little bit. However, once again, the game leans into the grind as you improve your ship. Practically every single thing you might want to do to improve your chances as a pirate lord requires excessive grind and more than a little bit of patience and tolerance for repetition. Not to mention that it's during these periods when you're going to be exploring the game in its fullest, and you'll come across places like this, places that look really beautiful and interesting. And I don't know about you, but I want to dock my ship and explore this fortress, explore this area, because it looks gorgeous and fascinating. And I mean, you can see the mansions down there where all of the officers no doubt live and exist, and you can see the big fortifications in the background, the quarry in the cliffside. Like, it's a really interesting place visually. But you can't actually do that. You want to see what happens when you try to explore that location? Let me show you. If you get close enough, you're prompted with 2 buttons. You can either interact by holding down B, where you're able to buy and sell, in this case, iron ingots, and that's the extent of it, or you can sell different items, and then it'll restock every half hour or so. Or you can hold down Y and plunder, and if you select to plunder, you get a cutscene that plays where everybody jumps out of the ship. You don't get to go inside though, they get to go inside, the NPCs do, and now I have to destroy these towers and other ships that are gonna come into this little yellow circle. And once I've done that for long enough, I have completed the plunder and taken over this area. But that's the extent of it. Like, that is the extent of exploration. Just when you find a place that's interesting that you might want to explore, you're just immediately reminded that this is not that kind of game. And as much as you might want to go in here and look around, the game's just not gonna let you. And that never ceases to be disappointing and frustrating. And this is where we can say, like, oh, it's not fair to hold Skull and Bones to the standard of like Black Flag, because it's not Black Flag. It was never going to be Black Flag. So to be like, oh, well, Black Flag did this better isn't necessarily fair. And maybe that's true. But at the end of the day, like, players who are playing Skull and Bones, almost all of them are familiar or have played Black Flag. We know what Ubisoft has been capable of in the past, over a decade ago. And to see this game fail at every step at accomplishing what that game did so effortlessly, seemingly, is just nothing less than disappointing and frustrating. I mean, it would be like seeing CD Projekt Red come along and with like the next Witcher game, they just casually have like 3.5 hours of content and it's all in like a small little area of flat land and there's nothing else interesting and there's like no narrative consequence and it's over before it began, and it's just a huge step down in quality from what they did last time. And you're like, I know you're able to do amazing things. Look what you did last time. What is this? Another example might be another live service game that just launched. No shocker, I'm going to bring it up. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Rocksteady, an amazingly accomplished developer, came out with Suicide Squad after 9 years since their last game, Batman Arkham Knight, and they come out swinging with a game
9 years ago. It does not feel like fucking 9 years. There's no fuck. Am I that old? Oh my god. Time just flies a bit. Waved. It's just passed by. 9 years ago. When it comes to Suicide Squad, don't care. I'm not a superhero guy. I don't care about superheroes or villains. I just do not care. I never like Marvel. I never like DC. I just never like any sort of superhero content. The only time I really liked any kind of superhero subject, it would be the Deadpool movies. Other than that, nothing. So to me, so far when it comes to Suicide Squad, just don't care. I just do not care. Even though I see now a lot of people say either really bad thing about the video game and some have say some positive, but mostly it's been like very negatively, especially because Batman is killed very dishonestly, or is it a dishonest way for the voice actor for Batman, who I think he died a couple of years ago? I don't remember exactly, but it was his final performance as Batman, and it's a very iconic voice he has.
Game that is not just extremely short, but is also monetized out the ass and wholly uninteresting. So while I do think it's important to be aware that Skull and Bones is not Black Flag, players are no doubt going to remember what they were able to do last time they tried this, and I think it's fair for them to be disappointed and frustrated at just how far the mighty have fallen. But that brings us to the end game of Skull and Bones, and this is where the game is supposed to be at its very best. And I do think it does some of the end game really well, but there are also problems. You see, it's in the end game where you actually get to play as a pirate. And thankfully, I got the chance to play Skull and Bones' end game for hours and hours and hours during a preview event just a handful of weeks ago. In this session, I got to play with a couple of other YouTubers and some members of Ubisoft filling out other parties. It was clear that this was where the game was going to shine and look its best. There's a lot of PvP combat. There's also PvPvE in the end game as well, where there are many missions where players are interacting with other seasonal bosses and big encounters and fights, or you might be fighting a gigantic sea monster, for example. And it's at moments like that where Skull and Bones starts to feel like it could actually potentially compete with the likes of something like Sea of Thieves. It's also in the end game when you're going to have your different ship loadouts really kitted up and capable of interacting well with the rest of the party. Some ship classes are built around playing as a tank with heavy weaponry and armor, but really slow movement speeds. Other loadouts are focused on healing, where you basically have a mortar that can heal ships that are members of your same group. Other ships are more...
What did you say?
Focused on a ship. Other loadouts are focused on healing, where you basically have a mortar that can heal ships that are members of your same group. Other ships are more...
Mortars that heals. What are you shooting? Like first aid at their... What the fuck is this? This is so stupid. I'm gonna type this in the comment sections later. I remember reading in the history book about the Battle of Trafalgar when Lord Nelson was using was doing a like goddamn meta. Got a meta move and just used his mortar on his ship at the front so he could take the brunt of the force of the French and Spanish armadas. This is...
more focused on assault and DPS, and some are more scout class ships, which are all about speed and maneuverability. Remember I said earlier that one of the visions of Skull and Bones was going to be that it was basically like a character shooter, almost like an Overwatch, with different classes of heroes and stuff, but then they shifted it towards ship combat exclusively, and then it shifted back and forth multiple times. Well, this is one of those holdouts where you basically have a healer, a tank, DPS, and then like support or maybe scout classes. It's here, but they're just ships instead, even if that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, I don't know how a mortar magically heals a pirate ship, but it can in this world. And while this may initially offer a breath of fresh air after the grind-heavy mid-game, it doesn't stay refreshing for very long. You see, there are only a handful of mission types for the end game, just like in many other live service games where they rely on a core set of missions and activities to keep you engaged for dozens or hundreds of hours. And just like so many other live service games that have come before it, most of these missions get extremely boring after just 1 or 2 completions. The plunder mission that I outlined earlier is just as boring the second time as it is the 5,000th time. The fights against sea monsters are initially fun, but they are far from varied, and the payouts for completing them are laughably poor. The payouts for completing the endgame bosses at the end of Season 1, for example, against La Peste, are surprisingly lackluster and require a lot of grind themselves to even approach accomplishing, since you need certain furniture pieces, which are basically just individual little perks for your ship, in order to take on a boss like La Peste and stand a chance, since he deals poison.
So you can have furniture, you can buy them, but they are perks. It's not like you can have them on your ship, you can place them on your ship, you can't walk around on your ship. Oh. Indie games just saves the video game industry. They have millions upon millions of dollars to spend on a video game. And they push out something like this every time nowadays. While indie games practically work for freaking free in many times and puts out a game that is just unbelievably, mind-blowingly better.
Damage, and you have to have certain furniture or perk pieces that specifically counteract those poison effects. Other furniture pieces you can have for this endgame boss are things like furniture pieces that increase damage against his faction of enemies, for example, and many others. But none of these are particularly interesting or novel. It's just a really big ship with a lot of health, and if you don't have the furniture pieces to make you resistant to his particular type of damage, you just won't be able to kill him or survive him. In addition to this, there are a handful of endgame missions for PvP that are completely broken if you don't have the particular type of ship equipped that you need in order to complete the task. I ran into this when I got the chance to play the endgame early, and in this particular mission, you basically go to a location, collect a bunch of loot from an area that you've captured previously, and that alerts everybody in the server to your presence that you're carrying this special contraband that they want to capture for themselves. And this creates a sort of mad dash where you are trying to deliver this contraband you've collected from a site that you've previously plundered, while many other players are chasing you down to try and claim it for themselves. It sounds like an interesting concept, sure, but once you realize that the max speed is altered for each and every class of ship, you should start to see the problem. If you are not running a scout class ship, you cannot win this mission type if there is a singular scout class ship in the server when this kicks off. This means that anybody with any experience with the game is just going to equip their scout class ship before they go and try to even start this mission. So then you have a scout class ship that has the highest max speed of any ship in the game running away from other scout class ships which have the same max speed, so they can never catch up. So the whole thing is just kind of a waste of time, because you'll never be able to catch up to the scout class ship if the scout class ship is what actually started off the mission. And so there's just no point in doing anything. So even after the 5 or so hours that I played the end game, we were already sick and tired of that mission after we had done it twice because we realized there was no point in even trying. Because even if you had a scout class ship, you couldn't catch up to the guy that started the mission and took the contraband because his max speed was topped out. So your max speed being the same as his, you'll just never catch up. There's no point in doing it. Like, he'd have to intentionally lose and hang back at slower speeds in order for you to catch up with him, which just doesn't make any sense. And I don't need to explain to you how bad it is for there to be endgame missions which are so broken that a dumbass like me can figure it out that it's broken within like 30 minutes of playing the game. So much so that we asked the developers, hey, are there like different food items you can craft to increase max speed so maybe you could catch up to that guy that took the contraband? Or are there other types of perks, maybe furniture pieces that you could equip on your ship to give you higher max speeds to maybe make this more competitive? And everybody that was at that preview event was like, no, not really. You can like recoup your stamina with food. So that's a thing, which we knew was a thing. And in the end game, you're gonna have so much freaking food that you'll never run out of stamina basically ever again. So that'll be true for everybody. So the guy that took the contraband will always have max stamina, always going max speed away from you. You may be going max speed towards him, but the max speeds are the same, so you'll never catch up. Just the whole thing is broken and busted. It doesn't make any sense at all. And listen, maybe they'll figure this out. Maybe they've patched it by the time you're seeing this video. I don't know, but this is one of the frustrations with Skull and Bones, is that there are so many little things that just don't make sense, like having a pirate game that you spend the first quarter or third of it just going around collecting materials like you're in some sort of knockoff Minecraft mobile game. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And then they go with the mid game and have it just totally bloated out the ass, so every little bitty task is a headache. And then the end game comes about and there are entire classes of missions that are totally pointless for everybody. Like, it doesn't make any sense unless you're the guy delivering the cargo with a very particular class of ship. And then nobody else even stands a chance at taking you down because you're just too fast and they will never be able to catch up. Like, every time you look at one of these little pieces that doesn't really make sense or doesn't fit together with the other pieces, it stacks and it just makes it worse and worse and worse. And what you end up with is Skull and Bones, a game that doesn't do anything well, a game that is more confusing than it is fun, and that begs the question, why does this even exist? Listen, I was hoping that they would pull it out and somehow Skull and Bones would be like a surprise hit. I love surprise hits. Helldivers 2, I had no idea Helldivers 2 was gonna be any good at all. I was like, looks like people who are fans of the original Helldivers will probably like it. Who knows? And I just kind of passed it out of my mind. And then I ended up playing it and I freaking love Helldivers 2, as is like everybody loving it. I mean, everybody is obsessed with that game right now. And it was a surprise hit. I don't think anybody really expected it to be this big or successful. So I was hoping Skull and Bones would be one of those, a surprise hit that blew us all away.
Like Valheim, when it came out, it just, poof, it just existed out of nowhere, and overnight it became a phenomenon, a video game phenomenon. And something that was desperately needed even, because it came out during the pandemic, the start of the pandemic basically. Was it a year after it started? Somewhere around there. And it grew fast. And then you have, of course, Pale Worlds, and you have, there was another one, Lethal Company as well, and Among Us. All of these games just came out of existence, just poof, like that, and it's just beautiful. Oh my god!
But it just isn't. Instead, it is a game that is exactly what we feared. It represents everything wrong with live service games and executives trying to force a game into the public eye at full price, even though it definitely should not be full price. I mean, Yves Guillemot, the CEO of Ubisoft, said that this is a quadruple A game. This deserves its $70 price tag, which whenever you hear somebody say that, just remember, like, Helldivers 2, $40. Palworld, $30. You could buy both of the most successful games of 2024 for the same price as Skull and Bones. It's like the executives have no idea how much money like $30 or $40 is.
They just... It's a problem with rich people, absolutely. They just live in their bubbles. To think... I mean, these people, they don't play video games like we do. We play video games because it's fun, it's relaxing, and it takes away a lot of anxiety for a lot of people, because we have to work long hours. We have to get to our job in different way, in all kinds of weathers. We have to deal with people who are either, a-holes and that sort of thing. And it's just... And we are being, laid upon more weight by the system, taxes and, food and, and gas prices. Like, these rich people, these higher ups, they don't experience these sort of things. They do, but they don't care, because they have all the money they need in the entire world. So to them, just $70 for them, it's just, they wipe their ass every time they go to piss with $70. Like, a lot of people would kiss someone's feet to get that sort of money almost today. So yeah, these people, they are living up in the clouds, away from reality, and then they are surprised that people are pushing back, like, how could you see this is bad? Look at it, it's a good video, it looks nice, right? Like, I don't care if it looks nice. Valheim, it's not a graphic, it's not like a Battlefield graphic video game. It's fun. It's fun. Is it hard for you to realize that people struggle every day? So yeah, these higher ups, they don't know the real world. They don't experience the real world. They don't play video games. And I'm not shitting on developers too much, because even they are also hard-working people. The higher ups, just what do you call it? I don't remember what it was called now again. Damn, I lost that word. When they are overworking their employees, like that sort of thing. There's another word for it, I don't remember it. But it just, they don't know the real world. They're living in a bubble. That's the thing. And then they are surprised when their bubble is starting to leaking a little, just because their own sort of self-action, they don't notice, or what you call it now, taking notice or attention to their own consequences of their own actions, sort of way. So yeah, there's a lot of things playing into it, but mainly, always when there's something wrong, it's the higher ups. Always the higher ups. And the higher ups must sometimes, or practically always, acknowledge there's something wrong, try to fix it, and try to be a little bit more involved in sort of thing. Not to take over everything and try to like take over everything like a captain, just take over the ship and that sort of thing. If he doesn't know what he's doing, he has to start to include people who knows this sort of stuff. So yeah, there is so much stuff with this modern gaming. Ugh.
They don't understand that the difference between a $30 live service game and a $70 live service game is massive. Yeah. That's a huge difference. But I think it's because they're also out of touch, that they don't understand that $40 could be a lot of money to somebody. Like, they just don't understand it. They're like, I don't know, like, what? They're like, I'm going to go hop in my fifth Lambo I have in my fourth garage, and I'll drive it to work today. And I'll set the price to 70, because who cares about $30 or $40? It's just amazing to me. But what is also amazing to me is that now that Skull and Bones is out the door, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like, Skull and Bones is out. What's the point of YouTube anymore? What are we going to talk about for the next however many years? I have no idea. I mean, that Skull and Bones is out this week. Helldivers 2 has ended up being amazing.
Yeah, what else is coming out this year except for Manalore, which I am looking forward. I mean, so close. It's just around the corner, and it looks yes, like it's in the games. Manalore, it looks so. I played that demo. When was it? Was it a year? No, a couple of months ago, and it was just fun. I craved more of it because it was so fun. Ugh. Obviously also World of the Worlds game, but I don't think we're going to get that one for a long time. Maybe next year, who knows. But this year, are there any games I'm looking forward to except Manlord, Tank Company? There is probably something. There is probably something, but I feel like this year, if there's going to be a lot of indie games, then I have no problem with it. But when it comes to big studio games, so far it's been quiet. I mean, we are not going to receive a proper big studio game until like next year, 25. I think it was 2025 that GTA 6 is going to come out. But so far, man, the new Mass Effect, I heard a lot about it, but I don't think it's not gonna come out until like 2026. Dragon Age Dreadwolf, I think what's called. Also, I don't think it's gonna come out this year or next year. I think it's probably like a 2027 even though that game has gone also like Skull and Bones. Been in development now for a long time and been what you call now, shut down and reinstated now and then. So I'm a little bit worried about the new Dragon Age. Elder Scrolls 6 possibly. But yeah, my faith in Bethesda has been just... It's in... it's leaning over an edge right now, and that edge is just growing bigger.
Suicide Squad's out, and I was just featured in Donkey's Suicide Squad video. So, like, what am I doing? Like, I've finished life. I've completed it. We're done. Max achievements unlocked. I also smashed my thumb. That was a thing.
Oh.
Hurt real bad. Car doors suck. Those things are dangerous, I'll tell you what. Anyway.
I can understand. At my work, we had one of those large boxes with wheels that we can drive around. They are made of very thick plastic, and it's so stupid because they touch the floor almost. And you have to be careful with your feet. If you're driving, they are very heavy as well. If you drive them close to your feet or something, and you get them, or you run over your feet, yeah, it's gonna create damage. Like I did it once, and I was forced to. It was one of my big toenails. It was bent like downward, and it was cracked. So a pointy stuff and like razor sharp. Part of the nail was sticking down into my toe, and then it had bent over almost. So I was forced to take a goddamn what do you call them now, clampers. I don't know what they're called. Excuse me, not my English, not my first language. But take one of those I don't know what they're called, and just rip off my nail because there was no other way, and it fucking hurts.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Much love to all of you guys.
Thank you.
Am kind of weirded out that this is gonna be the last time I talk about Skull and Bones, as far as I'm aware, but that's just where we are. It's time to put this baby to rest. She's been a fun cow to milk for content, I suppose, but now the time has come for us all to move on and put old Betsy to rest. So that's what we're gonna do. Let me know if you have bothered playing the game. You probably should.
Absolutely not. I'm not bothered to play in this game. Anyway, so this is going to be it. The state of video game, or the state of AAA video game. Oh, sorry, quadruple video game. I mean, if I have to look at it on a positive side, if this is the content we should expect from quadruple video games from now on, I'm not interested. I don't care what people say. I'm not interested in a quadruple video game if it's going to be this content forever. So yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and go and sub to Luke, and really amazing YouTube content. My God, I can't speak because my rage is just boiling right now. So yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and go and watch my review of my Baltimore anime figurine. I love it. I still have no place for it anywhere, unfortunately. But anyway, thank you all for watching.